I'm going to share a story today that I've been meaning to share for quite a while now, just because of how dramatic it was when I went through this. Essentially, I was in a position where, for the first time ever, really, my work was being questioned in a significant way. And not just my work, my motivations, even. And I remember I came home one time and I was kind of complaining to Whitney about it, and she said to me something that really resonated. She said, "Why does this bother you? You know that this is how that particular person that you're working with, it's how they are, that this is like happening regularly now, and not just to you, but to other people. So why is it bothering you?" And for some reason, just her saying that made me realize that I was getting offended in a situation where I really didn't want to get offended. And I went to scripture to sort of think about it and get, some counsel basically. And right away I just was hit by Jesus and how he had every right to be offended so many times. I mean, literally, here's the Son of God with all authority who could literally make anything happen, and he's constantly being questioned, provoked, antagonized, doesn't even often stand up in his own defense, just sheds it, off he doesn't shake him, at all, literally to death, like he's literally going to the cross to be crucified. He's being mocked and spit on, and he's not even offended. He's literally praying for the people that are accusing him. And I was like, wow, I'm so far from that. And so it caused me to pray, like, Lord, help me to be unoffendable. All right. And I prayed that, and I genuinely, meant it, because I knew that I had like a quick trigger, And what happened was, over the course of months, some things really started to happen that just tested and grew me in that way. That was just remarkable. I mean, give you an example. I was working on a project on a team where, basically out of nowhere, I literally got an email where I was being released from this team. And it was just, it was so sort of unexpected, and it was really unwarranted. And, I literally was normally my internal sort of temperature gauge would sort of go up right away, and I'd feel like I needed to defend myself. And, having just prayed this, it sort of like settled in my mind that maybe this is, maybe God is working here in some way, And so I didn't take it as hard as I probably would have in another time. And then I was working on another project where I had to go meet with a guy who is someone who I really respected and was doing incredible work, and another Christian even. And, this guy, there was a situation that unfolded where there was just real confusion around what had happened. And I reached out, and I wanted to go talk to him. And when I went to go talk to him, like, the conversation went nowhere. Like, it was clear that, there was just a big divide, between us. In fact, he actually asked me not to come back, to talk to him anymore, and to kind of stay out of his way, and not to, he even said to me, "I don't want to see you around here." And, again, another Christian, a guy who is a godly man, and, a lot of people really look up to, including me. And I remember I walked out of that, and I'm like, what the heck is going on? And I literally prayed, like, right there. I was like, Lord, like, what do you want me to do about this? This is difficult. And I felt like the Lord's response to me was, don't even worry about this. Bless him. And I was like, wow, And I later made a phone call to another guy who knows this guy who was actually mentored by this guy, so knows him really well. And I shared the situation in confidence, and I said, hey, what do you think about this? And he said, don't discount that God isn't in this. Even this conflict or this division, don't discount that he's not working in this. And my advice is that you just try to bless him. And so it just totally immediately rang true with what I was sensing. And so to I went forward with that. I just started to look for ways to bless that guy anonymously as much as possible, and in small ways, basically. Um, and so as time went on, this was sort of in the back of my mind, as there's always many things that sort of God is doing at any given time in my life. And but then later on, I don't know, a couple months later, I was brought into a meeting that I had a sense something was brewing. But I was brought into a meeting, and the meeting it went as badly for me as it almost could have gone. In fact, we were supposed to meet on one topic, and then basically the folks I was meeting with, they said, we're not going to meet on that. We're going to meet on something else. And they looked at me and they basically said, without any notice, like there was going to be dramatic changes to the way that this project and my role and everything was gonna be a part of it. And major repercussions, even financial repercussions, huge, of the point that it would be very difficult for my family, essentially moving forward. And I took the news, and my internal, again, like temperature gauge didn't. I was like really calm about this. And I remember I left, and I knew I had to go talk to my wife. And I remember thinking, wow, God is really up to something. I was actually thankful for it, even this trial. And when I talked to my wife, I realized, like, through this whole situation, that my I wasn't offended at all. And I was like, it was an incredible moment where I realized, like, that through these different things, that God had actually answered my prayer, and that he had moved me along this path of being much less offendable. And it's continued. And I've realized increasingly that, especially as someone like myself who feels called to share my faith pretty openly, in lots of situations where I feel God is calling me, to do it, that this is going to be probably normal for me, is to have these kinds of divisions and confusion and attacks and even persecution. And so I'm really thankful that I had that season where I realized I was offendable. I went to the Lord about it, and he challenged me and grew me up in that way. And I'm still growing. By no means am I there. I still find myself, when I'm tired or whatever, even probably mostly at home, with my wife, where I get like annoyed or offended. But I feel like I've grown in, by leaps and bounds in that area through this one particular season, that I just wanted to share with you. Because if there's stuff about you that you're not happy with, or if you're a Christian, you know that you're just not in alignment with what God's will is. Or if you're not a Christian, you're just like, this is interesting stuff. Like, let me just pray about this. Like, let's pretend there is a God, and say, Lord, can you make me a little bit less offendable, or can you make me a little bit more joyful? I'd like to smile more. I would encourage you to go down that road, to ask God to unlock some of these things in you, and he will do it. It doesn't, and be open to the reality that the way that God achieves things, growth in us, is often not what we would expect. But if you kind of go with it, and you're faithful, and you kind of lean into him, and you persevere through these things, and have hope and self-reflect that God can do these things. Like, he can literally change your heart in dramatic ways. I've seen it myself. So hopefully that's of some value, and I've been meaning to share that for a while. So I'm glad to kind of get that out there.